right, well, we have next to me three fantastic people. First of all, the Rainmaker, she's known as, the founding partner of CEC Capital Group. Irene Hong, CEC Capital is a leading investment bank in China, core focus in technology, consumer, and healthcare. And her core clients are China-related. Irene covers healthcare. So we also have the founder and CEO of HighTide Therapeutics, Dr. Li-Ping Liu, a chemist who also runs a pharmaceutical company with operations in Hong Kong, China, and the United States, looking at discovery and development of drugs that deal with metabolic disease, such as obesity and diabetes, and the founder and chief executive of Samoedra, Ivanna Salehudin, who's founded a company that tests for cancer, as well as her latest venture, Samoedra, which makes science-based dietary supplements that all of us have already signed up for, by the way. So let me ask you to start by describing what you see as the biggest opportunity to expand human health through biotech.
I think on the last panel, they talked about a lot of the AI and everything that's happening in healthcare. I think across all industries, we're looking at the application of machine learning and AI. I think with biotech, now that we have the ability to use machine learning there was just a study a couple of days ago from Stanford that talked about they screened 5,000 proteins, and they figured out that 900 of them were significant in terms of looking at organ health. And now they're figuring out how they can predict through a vial of blood potential organ failure.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
I think that in terms of biotech in general, just within diagnostics and therapeutics, the applications of how we diagnose and then how we actually can treat, you're going to see a significant amount of new technologies coming out, from early cancer screening to predictions. I think it's going to be very interesting. And also drug discovery, as Nisa had mentioned also.
Li-Ping, what do you think is the biggest opportunity?
Well, HighTide has an office in Shenzhen, and I see the fusion of biotechnology and the information technology can be very important, and also the fusion of the East and the West, and the traditional Chinese medicine and the modern medicine. That's going to create a big opportunity when we look at treat the patient holistically.
Interesting. Yeah. Ivanna.
Well, in my particular industry, I'm in nutraceuticals, and we see artificial intelligence is just enormously has changed the landscape and the game in terms of efficiency. So, yeah, I believe in terms of sorting through clinical studies and also finding new ingredients and botanicals and tailor it.
So, Ivanna, tell us a little bit, because your personal experience has influenced your work and your latest company. Tell us about that, how that's happened.
Well, Edie, it started with after the birth of my third child. So she was born with the rare genetic syndrome, and I've suffered postpartum depression with my previous two children. And the third one, I recovered fairly well. I had more clarity, focus, and optimism. Hopeful. And the thing that was different this time, the third time around, was that I had ample rest. I had help from a confinement nanny, a wonderful, wonderful lady, saved my life. But also she brewed these beautiful drinks, these traditional Chinese drinks for me that I had to consume for 6 months. And that really helped.
It's extraordinary.
And so I was in nutraceutical since 2014, called in a couple of favors and ran through the ingredients and found out there's clinical studies attached to them, all these therapeutic benefits, and it did what it was supposed to do, except I had to consume it for 6 months. That's because the level of potency clearly was quite low. And so the idea came about, and the reason why my partner and I decided to incorporate the company in Australia, because we believe that postpartum wellness is a neglected segment in women's health in the Western society for Western women. And so we believe it's fairly needed there.
Interesting. That fusion of modern with traditional medicine, Li-Ping, is something that I think resonates with you as well.
Yes, and I think if you look back, a lot of medicine was actually created from a natural, and the traditional Chinese medicine was actually based on a natural product. And so what we are doing, we create this molecule, and based on the natural molecule, by making a new molecule entity using the modern chemistry called the berberine ursyl deoxycholate, we use the code of 1801. And the compound, when we create it, instead of just treating the disease for single biomarker indication, but you really look at provide a holistic approach and provide and restore the metabolic health in overall benefit in lower the blood glucose level, the fatty liver, the body weight in total. And so I think the way looking the patient as a whole instead of looking the disease only as a disease to treat the symptom, that's more important. And that's how we really confuse the traditional knowledge and with the modern medicines of today's science. Yeah.
Irene, give us a flavor of why you came to China to work on healthcare.
Yeah, no, so my background's a little bit different. I was born and raised in the US, but I was sent to China in the early 90s to, as part of, Merck had donated the technology for the hepatitis B vaccine to China. So I was part of the team that brought that technology to China. And for me, I think it's something that I'm very passionate about. I've seen China for the last 30 years actually really grow. And Nisa mentioned this is the first time that China's now out licensing. And so, I'm very passionate about, China basically eradicated hepatitis B with that one vaccine. So that started my trajectory in China.
Story, isn't it? And quite well known in China as well.
Yeah, that project was quite special.
So two of the biggest buzzwords that I mentioned at the beginning in health are personalization and democratization. But Irene, tell me why these don't always go so well together.
Yeah, democratization of healthcare happens when costs really go down. And one of the interesting things, like we've seen from, let's say, genome sequencing, it went from hundreds of $million for the first one to tens of thousands of dollars to now just several $100s. And so I think democratization happens really when costs go down. But personalization doesn't necessarily mean, cheaper costs, right? So if you look at CAR-T, it's a very, very expensive treatment. But the layman...
CAR-T, just to give a brief explanation.
That is one of the latest immunotherapy treatments for cancer, where they will take out a person's blood and then they will engineer the T cells and put it back in to target the cancer. Very expensive because it's highly personalized. But the example I like to give is, if you have a tailored suit, it's very expensive. But then with technologies, maybe you can have cameras that can take your measurements, or robotics that can take your measurements, and then it gets sent to a manufacturer and they can make the suit. It's not mass market, but I think technologies can start to decrease costs of personalization. But they're very different concepts and things. Yeah.
Right. I'm still waiting for that technology when the cameras make my suit. So let's talk about AI. Li-Ping, how do you use AI to develop your products, and what do you find the challenges are?
Yeah, we've been working with a lot of AI companies around the world, including Germany, UK, and Canada, and China. And so the way we first in using AI, I look at that more as a tool. And it's going to be look at the data with no bias, with no dogmatic view, and so help us to analyze the large data or the data mining and point it up the lead, and also some network pharmacology that's really looking at the human as a body as a whole. But I do also realize the limitation of the AI because, the AI analyzing the data really depends on the quality of the data. And if you look at the publication today, even with the top journal like Cell Nature Science, there's a lot of data cannot be retested. That's caused the issue of garbage in, garbage out. So I think this morning with the Google, and talking about the Gemini and talking about the AI, it's not really artificial intelligence, but artificial understanding. I think one day, that I would really hope AI will be able to tell the real data and the you know.
And not hallucinate.
Not hallucination. And I think that would really help with the advance of the medicine and also the science in general speaking.
Ivanna, how does AI work with what you do? Because I believe you've used it, or you can use it, to identify the different kinds of ingredients that might go into your supplements.
Well, so during the first stage of product development, so we went through the traditional way. So we collaborated so we have a partnership with a lab in Malaysia where the products are formulated, and so that's the traditional way, and then it was time consuming, trial and error mostly, but that was how it was done. And when we started our second round of product development, then we utilized AI, and that time was efficient, cost was much lower, and we managed to go through a huge number of studies and also potential botanicals that have therapeutic benefits that mostly would take months to go through or never even heard of. And so for our product development, we managed to tailor it and optimize our formulation a lot faster, more efficient, definitely, and cost
see
efficient.
which things could go together, which ingredients would work together, which
absolutely.
would enhance, and also which would cancel each other out.
Absolutely, and normally that would take trial and error in the lab, and so samples after samples, and but with AI, it completely eradicated that process. And it helped a lot in terms of cutting costs for our designing product packaging, and also our marketing campaigns.
Right.
So the AI managed to tailor our ads, what we run our ads, so people who are not within our scope of consumers would not be bombarded with the ads. So it's
helping.
efficient. It's efficient, absolutely.
Where are you finding, Irene, the most promising investments that you're making in AI and healthcare?
Oh, honestly, I think that what makes that question very difficult is that I think that we used to have a digital healthcare or a industry group, but then we realized actually across every segment we're finding that it's applicable, right? And so what makes that question very difficult is you're asking me to choose, let's say, one
a diagnostic
child. Or a therapeutic.
Choose a favorite child, Irene.
But I think what's really interesting is okay, so everyone understands very recent with early cancer screening, right? They're using what they call multi-omics. It used to be that we used to look for tumor fragments, and now we're looking at the ability to have all this computing power and look for things that you're not really sure you don't know that you're looking for it. And so across all different types of signals, like immune system signals, and so basically you can take a lot of different what they call multi-omics and track and see. You start to see patterns that you didn't understand before. And so, pretty soon there's going to be multi-cancer panels where they can actually screen for signals for early cancer. It's not the genetic type of testing, but really you can screen for the cancers. I think that's really going to make a big impact. I think everything, when you talk about diagnostics, because you have diagnostics and you have treatment and therapeutics, but if you can catch things early, then that's really, when we talk about preventive medicine, and when you get to a granularity, then I think that's very exciting. So, like looking for, like Stanford study, organ failure or cancer screening, when you can find it early, then we have the whole longevity. And then also things like 3D printing of drugs. Right now, you can dose in very different, very precise granularity. So I think that just everything with the computing power, every aspect of healthcare, I think, is going to be accelerated. It's very exciting.
That's what Josh said. 100% of healthcare will be changed. I want to talk, Li-Ping, about the work that you're doing targeting metabolic disease and how this extends lifespan and health span as well. Give us a little more detail.
Right, and I know that the longevity has been a very popular topic these days. We have a lot of conversation from Riyadh, the FII, and now here. But I think, when talking about longevity, you really need to talk about the quality of life, not just the quantity of life. So I call it the healthspan instead of a lifespan. And then metabolic health, to generally speaking, that's a big problem around the world. And not only in the developed country, but also in the developing country. Then coming to the look in the metabolic health, before, we tend to look at the disease separately. Diabetes, you treat the blood glucose level, and dyslipidemia, treat the, lower the lipid. And lo and behold, when you treat one disease, you sometimes create another problem. Everybody knows if you use insulin to treat the diabetes, you cause obesity, you cause weight gain, and the deposition of the fatty liver. So I think when we come in to look at this, we look at the patient as a whole. I call it the patient-focused drug discovery, or centricity. So not only just trying to solve one problem, but you look at the patient and how you can restore the metabolic health. That's where we come in, and not only to look at the liver problem, look at the blood glucose, and look at the weight. In general speaking, that's how we create this molecule we call multifunctional, multi-target. And with the multifunctional, multi-target, you're going through the trial, you really see you brought the total, restore the metabolic health, instead of, if you headache, you treat your headache, but you may create another problem. So,
but if we're going to get down to brass tacks, Li Ping, aren't you just helping people lead unhealthy lifestyles? Shouldn't we be telling them to exercise more, have less food in general?
In general speaking, absolutely, you're right. I think the problem is you are fighting with a million years evolution. People love food, and I think, it really just in the last 100 years, maybe we have more food than we need.
Right.
But before the 100 years ago, a lot of people die of a feminine than overnutrition. This totally changed now, and there's the WHO data. There's one person die of a feminine hunger, though 5 people die due to overnutrition. So I think we can't change people's lifestyle right now rapidly, and fighting with the evolution. So people are living out healthy, and how you can try to make them more healthy.
Right.
So that's the way I look at it. So I do agree with you. In the morning session, we're talking about prevention. Prevent the disease. Traditional Chinese doctor said, if you are the best doctor if you can prevent the disease, or treat the patient, prevent the disease 10 years before it's happening, right? And that's exercise, good food.
And supplements, right? So I want to know, we're coming close to the end of our time. I want to know if there's one change you could make in the world of biotech. What would it be, Ivanna?
Biotech, make it affordable. I believe
so
3 A's.
You have to get the government involved.
I say the 3 A's, accuracy, affordability, and accessibility.
Okay. What about you, Li Ping?
Treating the patient with their total health in mind instead of just treating the disease. And Irene just mentioned about the CAR T. Now you see the recent news, buzz news on the created secondary tumor. So that's not what you want, right? You want to have the total health, patient focus, and drug discovery.
Plenty of patients who've had CAR T, though, that are living healthy lives.
Yeah.
Irene, what would you change?
Yeah, I think the biggest cost to healthcare and drug discovery is regulatory, right? And all the costs of trials. And I think one thing that is really interesting is, with the mRNA technology that was originally there for oncology vaccines, we were really tested as a global world to understand how quickly we could bring that to market, right? And so I'm not suggesting that we don't have regulatory and we don't, but I think that there's efficiencies in terms of how we get drugs approved and so I would like to see.
Is that better in China? Is that a faster process in China or not?
I think it's equally difficult around the world.
For good reason, right? Okay. I wonder if you guys could give me a expectation or a prediction about how long you think we can increase our healthy lifestyle by. Ivanna, what would your goal be? What would you like to live to?
I think I'll cap it at around 100. 100. I think I'll be happy with 100. Yeah.
Cool century. What about you, Li Ping?
120.
120. Is that possible, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you see there's a lot of study on that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we upload our consciousness to the internet, Irene?
Honestly, this is the first time in my entire life that I've never been able to extrapolate out the future, given what's happening, like with ChatGPT and AI and machine learning. Just in general, I don't know how to extrapolate the future, and no one knows. The debate is how fast, in terms of development and adoption, and we talk about things at a very high level, but how fast is this going to happen? We don't know. I don't know if I can answer that question about how long, because I think things are advancing so fast, I can't extrapolate it out in my own mind.
All right, it's impossible, I think, for human beings to be able to understand exponential change. It's like unfathomable to be able to predict.
Well, in banking, we are always doing predictions, and we often can model predictions, but I think this is, again, the first time I feel that I'm uncertain about how fast the technology is going to
change
progress.
Us all.
Yeah.
Unprecedented times. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Irene, to Li Ping, and to Ivanna. Thank you.
Thank you, Edie.
Thank you. Yeah.